And now, the best 60-ish seconds of your week.
And we're in the week, I can't even remember, of the Wuhan Flu quarantine season. And around the country, the troops are getting just a little bit restless. We're hearing about reopening plans and orders, etc., but at the same time, there are protests, some of them fairly large, in opposition to some apparently pretty arbitrary and capricious rulings about what's allowed to be open and what must be closed and who has to wear masks, etc., in various states around the country. They're talking, though, about baseball and maybe having a cactus league and a grapefruit league that's for real rather than simply exhibition games. It would be a great thing to hear them saying play ball. And of course, the personal grooming problems continue. I understand that there is a run on hair coloring products in certain stores. Think about that. I've always had to put these silver highlights into my hair, covering up those black roots, but because several of you liked the picture from the soccer fields of a few years ago and asked for a close-up, we thought we'd give you just a peek. And the presidential campaign of 2020 continues despite the quarantine on account of the Wuhan flu. And although it's a little bit different than ordinary, Joe Biden apparently has wrapped up the Democratic nomination. As the nominee apparent, he's now picking up the endorsements that he wanted all along. And in the case of Bernie Sanders, it was, frankly, too little. And in the case of Barack Obama, too late. Sanders has pushed Biden pretty far to the left. That's really all he could do. Whether or not he can deliver any of his core support is an open question. A lot of polls suggest that Biden's going to have a hard time picking up especially those younger Sanders supporters. And Obama obviously didn't really want Joe Biden. This is a pro forma endorsement that he would have given to whomever was the Democratic nominee. It doesn't have much weight, and in fact, it may point up some of the soft underbelly of the Biden campaign, namely that he didn't have Obama's support and that, as Barack Obama said, he has the most progressive agenda of any major party candidate for president in history. And in business and financial news, the markets continued to go up this week, closing out at above 24,000, making it look very much like we may actually get that V curve so many had hoped for. But there's an awful lot of water to go over the dam or under the bridge, and the Wuhan flu aftermath promises to be very, very difficult, not only with joblessness, but with the restart of a massive economy and a very intricate one. There are going to obviously be some problems. And if you look at the Fed's balance sheet right now, it is at record highs, totaling almost 30% of GDP. And the projections for this year's deficit on account of the savings plans necessary to combat the aftermath of the Wuhan flu quarantine suggest that the deficit will run above $4 trillion this year. Think about that. It took the country over 200 years to get to $1 trillion. We're talking now about in excess of $4 trillion in a single year, which will push the national debt above $25 trillion. That's more than the entire GDP, of the country. And the oil collapse rivals what happened in 1979 to 1983, except that instead of it being 4 years, it's been 4 weeks. So there is a lot of upheaval beneath the surface, which at this point anyway, looks pretty tranquil. Let's hope that continues and that we can get this economy going again, get America back to work, and let the productive engines of a free society do what they do best. And President Trump cuts off funding to the World Health Organization, where we've been footing the lion's share of the bill for a long time. And of course, the liberal elites are, up in great hue and cry as if it actually had some bearing on the American people. The WHO has been up to its ears with the Chinese Communist Party. And as congressional investigations begin to unearth what's really taken on there, we're going to be in for a lot of surprises. And I think we will as well, when the facts about the Chinese Communist parties and the Chinese government's involvement in the Wuhan flu are fully exposed. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. In fact, I'm anything but this time around, I may become one. There's an awful lot that needs to be answered about the Chinese government's involvement in all of this, or lack thereof, at critical times along the way. and the fact that they got the WHO to lie for them, to the American people and to the world. And manufacturers and other businesses are now looking very seriously at taking their operations elsewhere, out of China, which has been the go-to destination for too many folks for too long. Now talking about moving the other direction. There's going to be an awful lot of upheaval in the aftermath, and China may bear the brunt that they so seriously deserve. And yet, the United Nations welcomes them into the Human Rights Council while all this is going on. I mean, are you kidding me? If ever there was an argument against the UN, there it is right there. An awful lot of other questions are being asked now about what's occurred during the Wuhan flu epidemic. One of which is the counting of the deaths. Namely, are people dying with coronavirus or from coronavirus? There's a real question there and a lot of issues about transparency. So keep your eye on that. It's going to be very, very fascinating to watch all of this unfold. And the world lost Brian Dennehy this week, a great actor and a giant presence on the screen. He certainly will be missed. And we marked the 50th anniversary of the return of Apollo 13. Think about that for a moment and all that occurred in that heroic, ultimately, episode in American space travel history. And for those of you that are anxiously awaiting the summer reading list, I have one for you during the coronavirus Wuhan flu quarantine. The Splendid and the Vile was sent to me by a friend. It is a great read about Winston Churchill's leadership during the darkest days of World War II. And finally, we don't advertise one here, ever, and this is not an advertisement, it's a free one. I read the Wall Street Journal every single day. The Washington Times is always a great read. I write for The Hill, you want to look at that every day. But the Epoch, E-P-O-C-H, the Epoch Times is worth your subscribing to if you really want a bead on what's going on with the Chinese Communist government, and especially in light of the Wuhan flu, which we're calling deliberately and asking others to call by the same name, because that's what it is. But for now, that all is the best 60-ish seconds of your week.